Hello and welcome to the Indie Beginning Podcast. It is our mission to bring indie authors and readers together through reviews, dialogue, and unique topic segments. This week, we bring you a discussion with indie author Barbara Quinn about the healing power of music and using music in your writing. Last week, we introduced you to her story, The Summer Springsteen Song Save Me. So if you missed it, head over to acmbooks.com/indie-beginning and check out episode 31. We've got a good one for you today, so let's jump right in with the reviews. Jesse said, "This is a wonderful tale of rebirth, finding yourself, and the healing power of Bruce Springsteen music. I love the story, the characters, and especially the music I heard in my head as I read the book. I love the story and enjoyed my time on the beach."
Catherine says, "The book is an enjoyable and fun read. I particularly enjoyed the familiar setting of our beautiful Jersey Shore towns. The references to Springsteen's music made us listen to his lyrics and buy several new songs to enjoy all the time. Looking forward to Barbara's next book."
B wrote, "This book has everything a good woman's fiction read should have. A broken heart, a painful past, heartache, laughter, revenge, new love, friendship, and making peace."
And Sarah said, "A brilliant read, well-developed plot. I love the use of music throughout the novel and how lyrics emphasize your feelings, which was brilliantly written. I also like the song titles becoming title chapters, which is a nice touch. The depiction of anxiety for Sophia was perfectly written and extremely relatable."
So what did you think about the book, Marie?
I really enjoyed it. It was different from everything else that we've read. You know exactly what happens to the character in the very beginning, so now it's all about the journey about after.
Yeah, you know she had me at Springsteen. So the minute we got the submission, I was like, I definitely know we're going to check this one out. And then I was happy that it was really well written, really easy for you to read and me to read in case it came up on my week. But yeah, I loved it, and I love the idea behind the story. We often hear about authors being inspired by music, but you don't really see that in the work. Like, you may know somebody listened to something, and we'll get into that later, and then that led to like a horror story. But in this, Barbara Quinn goes through it and says, listen, these songs mean this to me. They may mean this to Sophia. This is how she's progressing through her healing process. And I thought that was brilliant. I loved it. I think we need more of that. Mm-hmm. We wanted to know what inspired Barbara Quinn to write. What music does she listen to? And this is what she had to say.
"One of the things that helps me get back on the writing track is listening to Chopin's Nocturnes. A talented poet, Al Rochelot, turned me on to the rush of creativity these nocturnes can unleash. He recommends listening to them 100 times. I can't say I've done that, but I can say that after hearing them a few times, something does happen and the words begin to flow. Another thing that helps clear my mind and provides inspiration is the sound of waves hitting the shore. I've gravitated to beaches my whole life. I suppose that was spurred on by my folks, who had me on a Long Island beach at 2 weeks of age. And so now I split my time between the waves of the Jersey Shore and the waves of the Florida Gulf. The whoosh empties my mind of everything. My heart rate slows. It's liquid meditation for my soul and is a pure natural art form available any time of the day or night. The sea changes every day and yet remains constant. It's a wonderful reminder of what life is with all its beautiful and terrifying moments."
So yeah, she brings up Chopin's Nocturnes. I personally can understand her message about the beaches and the waves. I mean, you know, I have this obsession with waterfalls because I grew up by waterfalls. She brings up that she grew up on Long Island beaches, and you know that brings her back to the waves. Mm-hmm. I really love that. She also was mentioning about how like the waves makes people think of like has like a creation and a destruction to it. You know, the waves are being created, and as they splash, they destroy. I really love that. I absolutely loved what she had to say.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be nice, because I'm a music head, and I thought it would be nice to go through some like deep research on like the healing power of music, and I found that It has been proven that listening to music makes us more productive, creative, it can release stress, and depending on the sort of music, can improve moods. And anybody who disagrees with that needs to hop on a motorcycle, pop on some heavy metal, and see if they follow the speed limit. Side note, I learned this last week. We also thought it would be nice to research what authors listen to while they write. What did you find, Marie?
In an interview that appeared in The Atlantic, Stephen King said he likes the heavy stuff while he is feeding his creative process. While writing, he listens to bands like Metallica and Anthrax.
Hopefully not on a motorcycle. Also, we learned that Gabriel Garcia Marquez, author of Love in the Time of Cholera and 100 Years of Solitude, he was asked during a documentary film, and I'm going to butcher this poor man's name, Heriberto Fiorillo, and he said that he wore out Beatles records, which he listened to in order to stimulate himself.
Vladimir Nabokov, author of Lolita, needs silence. He has been quoted as saying, "I have no ear for music. I am perfectly aware of many parallels between the art forms of music and those of literature, especially in the matters of structure. But what can I do if ear and brain refuse to cooperate?"
Now, Vlad, he's got a good point. I have a hard time writing when there are words in the music. I start to listen to the words. Now I'm paying attention to the story and the song. Whereas if I can find a instrumental version of whatever genre I'm, like when I was writing that Angels and Demons book, I needed like the heavy metal or the rock to get the action. But anytime, because I was always listening to Coheed and Cambria when I did it, anytime they would sing, boom, Ben's off in Dreamland. Ben goes to Benland real easy.
Well, see, and I'm the opposite. When I write anything, I have a certain playlist that's on repeat the entire time. When I go through it for a second time and I edit it, I have to have either complete silence or no words whatsoever. But while I'm creating, I have to have that music.
I will say this. I am working on a not action, more of a sappy story. And I'm finding that with the lyrics, it takes me to a place where some songs bring me to tears. So I like to put those on the playlist, especially when I'm writing those sad moments. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to pull myself out of the story and put myself into the story I'm writing. But for some reason, those rock songs, and especially when they take you off into space, I'm just gone. I start writing. Angels become aliens, and it's just not a good thing. Lots of editing to do. Next, we thought we'd ask Barbara, what do you think it is about music, writing, or just art in general that helps people to heal? Do you think it unlocks something within them, or simply takes them away from the world and into their self for a while? Like I just mentioned, I go into Bedland. This is what Barbara had to say.
When my mother was suffering from dementia toward the end of her long life, it was amazing to witness how music unlocked her past and brought her back to the present. She sang along with Frank Sinatra, and she grew more alert and happy. Music can reduce stress and open up pathways to reality. For me, writing and music take me away from the hustle and bustle, an endless list of tasks awaiting me. I lose track of time and enter a world where my innermost self becomes greater and freer than my normal reality. I become so much more than I am. It's like flying.
So Barbara brings up dementia, and in college I took some aging classes, and dementia, Alzheimer's is extremely sad, but it is amazing what music does. You hear a song, especially if you hear one from your childhood, and all of a sudden the person is back to being themselves because they've connected to a memory, and they may not be their current selves, but you can just see the joy in their face that they're remembering. And I recently did some research, and it turns out that music, especially stuff that brings up the emotion and the memories, it helps us from falling victim to Alzheimer's and dementia. For this, it inspired me to kind of look up the history of using music in healing. And I was actually shocked to see how far I went back, even though it totally makes sense. So right off the bat, I learned that music and healing can go all the way back to ancient Greece. And this is where I should have known it. Apollo was the god of both art including music, and medicine, which suggests the belief that both are connected.
In biblical times, instruments were used to vanquish evil spirits from a human soul.
Yeah, even Native Americans. I grew up, my best friend's Native American. They use a lot of song and dance as a way to heal the sick and to bring nature back together. It's just within everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some of my favorite, like we've talked to our friends Don and Dorothy who grew up during World War II.
Yep.
In the 40s, when the United States military incorporated music into their programs for the recuperation of army personnel during World War II, like Dorothy loves to sing, what are they called? Candid songs? I don't know, but they're military songs.
To the cadence?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they keep their steps and stuff. Yeah. And that made me curious as to like, how could this possibly work? And I found that listening to music floods our brains with a chemical called dopamine, and they consider this to be the quote-unquote happy chemical. It releases oxytocin, and a natural painkiller and hormone that allows us to bond with and trust other people. And I think that that's why when we go to concerts, there's such a connection. But to bring this back to the stories, I think that just having, just like it did for me, the words, the summer Springsteen's songs saved me. Once you get to the Springsteen, you've already got a connection. This man has 4 billion songs. Not literally. But he has a ton of songs, and they're all really good, and they're all about something else. And I think so whereas you're at a concert, and that brings you closer to other people because you have the connection, well, now you have a connection with Barbara Quinn through Springsteen, through how Springsteen has made you feel. So staying on the summer Springsteen song Save Me, we noticed that there was a lot of she had over 50 4+ stars on Amazon, which for an indie author is very good. I mean, that's doing well. Some people did point out that it's definitely not their normal genre. And we wondered if she thought that fact that most people can relate to the effects of music helped bring people to her story.
Yes, I think the title, The Summer Springsteen Song Save Me, causes a lot of people to pause and investigate further. The coupling of music with being saved is a terrific draw. Who hasn't suffered through a time when life beats you up so badly you feel you need saving? Tragedy, loss, and pain strike us all and can occur at any time. And music often is what gets us through those tough periods. Springsteen's songs are incredibly on point for so many difficult times. He writes of breakups and heartbreak, loss of jobs, depression, relationships with parents, death of friends, and of ideals. You can listen and hear your own sad story in his words. And there's usually light at the end of the dark tunnel. He gives you hope that you can come out the other side and go on. As for people saying this is not their usual genre, I understand that, but also take issue with it. Fiction is fiction, and I'm hopeful more people will give the story a chance once they learn a little about it. I hate pigeonholing this novel as anything but good fiction. Shoving it into a genre is like squeezing a size 9 foot into a size 6 shoe. Unfortunately, the easiest way to market a book is to stick it into that shoe. It's a great story that breaks through the genre box. That said, I'm glad so many people are willing to chance reading something they perceive to be beyond their usual, and I'm grateful the music connection put them over the edge and allowed them to take that leap.
She says people gravitate towards music to heal. She acknowledges the fact that people may have grabbed the story because they saw the name, and most people do. Springsteen's music covers all of life's events. Breakups, lost love, lost promise, lost job, following love.
Even my favorite song, Rosalita, is about 2 young lovers whose families don't approve. It's like a Jersey West Side story. Or, West Side Story is based off of Romeo and Juliet. So it's like a Jersey Romeo and Juliet. She even goes on to say you can listen and hear your own sad story in the words, and there's usually a light at the end of the dark tunnel. That's what everybody needs is inspiration that it's not always gonna be bad.
And she doesn't like how books get marketed. Books are books and should be read as such. She takes issue with pigeonholing hers in, I think, any story. You can hear her passion in her recording.
Yeah, I actually felt bad for asking the question because I thought I made her upset, even though that was not my intention. But I think she understood what I meant. Another one of her reviewers mentioned that they continually went to YouTube to listen to Springsteen songs because their knowledge of the boss was limited. But it helped her get a better feeling for Sophia's feelings. We asked Barbara, did she want the songs to help with the understanding of her characters, or was this just a unique bonus effect?
I wanted the songs to be a treasure hunt for those who cared to go on it. But while I titled each chapter with a Springsteen song and wove that song into the chapter, you don't need to be a Springsteen fan to enjoy the book. I do think the fans of his music easily delve more deeply into the story. Like many things in life, the story works on different levels. The avid fan of the boss can understand exactly what each song means in each chapter and can hear the music in their head. People not familiar with the songs might want to read at that level of understanding, but they don't need to. Some readers, like the one you mentioned, make sure to listen to the songs, either before or after they read a chapter, sometimes both. Sophia explains her feelings and relates to particular songs. I think it's a cool feature to be able to go deeper into her head by listening to the song or knowing the lyrics. By the way, there are 43 chapters, and it took me forever to find the right song for each chapter.
She meant for the songs to go with each chapter, but also not required listening. Fans may be able to delve deeper into Sophia's thought through the music.
I know what songs meant to me and how I feel. I know that right off the bat when I saw the word Badlands, being a music fan, especially being a Springsteen fan, it brought me to that space where I'm already ready to belt out the lyrics without regard to your ears or our son Darian's ears. I mean, I was already in a special place before I even read a word. I mean, there are 43 chapters to this story, and the boss has enough to cover each of the chapters, which I truly loved. Yeah, he's that good. Before moving on to Barbara Quinn's final thoughts, I thought it would be interesting to see what stories have been influenced by songs. You're always hearing about what authors listen to when they write. So what songs were influenced by books? And I remember hearing once that Ramble On by Led Zeppelin was influenced by Lord of the Rings. And it was. But Plant admitted in an audio documentary that he was embarrassed by the Tolkien references as they don't make all that much sense. A fair maiden wouldn't be found in Mordor, and Gollum wouldn't want anything to do with her anyways, since his only concern was the precious rings, and I pulled that right off of Song Facts. But it's funny because I always thought that the maiden, quote unquote, was an artistic reference to the ring, making a connection between beauty, compulsion, and longing. And I really could go on all day about how the connection to the maiden and the ring really work, but Robert Plant was embarrassed because he felt like he threw it in there. Mm-hmm. Like, do you ever find your interpretation of a story is completely different later on when you do some research about it? Like, you were like, oh, that always made so much sense. And then somebody's like, yeah, that's not what it meant.
Oh, there have been times. I can't pull one exactly out, but yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's all the time. Like, I think that's the beauty of art and music and reading is everything means something to somebody else. So what the Summer Springsteen songs Save Me means to me is different than what it means to you, and what it means to both of us is probably shocking to Barbara Quinn. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never come home to see my husband cheating on me, obviously. So, but it still resonates with me on some level. But speaking of Lolita, did you know that Don't Stand So Close to Me by the Police was based on that story, Lolita?
I had no idea. I did know that Led Zeppelin's The Battle of Evermore was based on Return of the King, the book 3 in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he seems to love the Lord of the Rings, yet he's embarrassed by it, but he writes every song after it. Yeah. This one shocked me, and I'm a Wings fan, and I'm not a huge fan, obviously, because I'd never heard the song Magneto and the Titanium Man, but I'm pretty sure had I heard it, I still wouldn't have gotten the reference until I looked it up. That's straight out of the X-Men universe. Like, whoever thought Beatles Paul McCartney would be inspired by an X-Men comic book and write an entire song about it. And I downloaded it the other day. I wish I could play it on the podcast. It's not so bad. It's actually pretty good. So lastly, we always love to hear what other authors wish they knew when they started their writing career. As music has inspired Barbara Quinn, I believe Barbara's answer will inspire you. Usually our authors give us a nice little warning or something, but Barbara has a totally different answer for you guys. This is what she had to say.
I'd say you're not going to believe it, but the gatekeepers are going to lose their power over writers and what gets published. Your words will reach people around the world in ways no one ever imagined possible, and you'll be able to have easy dialogue with fans via your computer and phone. Small presses and independent publishing will flourish, as will audio broadcasts and electronic media. A whole new language will develop to describe these new types of publishing ventures. E-zines, podcasts, e-pubs, e-books, e-readers. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I love the quote, the gatekeepers are going to lose their power over what gets published. It's hands down the truth, as indie is taking over traditional leaps and bounds.
Everything. It's taken over music. It's taken over movies. I mean, some of Darian, my son, and my favorite movies are independent movies.
Yeah.
They just did that action movie, Hardcore Henry, and maybe it was like 2 years ago, where they just used GoPros. I mean, it's amazing what we could do now with technology. I mean, technology, as Barbara Quinn said, allows us to communicate with people across the world. We have done stories. I don't know if you've realized this. I mean, I know you've realized this, but I don't know if our listeners realize this. Just because of the Indie Beginning podcast. Now, we don't really promote well. We're not funded. We do this just out of, the joy of reading and wanting to help indie authors. But we have met Ilu Bundu from Sierra Leone.
Carmela Voyas from Scotland. Paul Grover in the UK.
We met Robert Weber from Cambodia. I mean, we have traveled the globe in 31 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing. And we've made friends with people across the globe just because of this mic, the cord going into a keyboard, and my lack of needing sleep. But it's so amazing. And I can't agree with her anymore. And it's just one of our missions to just get these stories and these authors out there. Well, that's all we have for you today. It was a little bit longer than normal, but it probably would have gone 2 hours had Marie not reeled me in. She cut my notes down. The Summer Springsteen song Saved Me is available on Amazon. Remember to leave a review for the story and all of the stories you read when you're finished. Reviews are such an important part of any artist's journey and lead to learning and better content. In fact, podcasts love reviews too. Marie and I would be so appreciative if you would just comment and review on the Apple Podcast or wherever you found us. Subscribe to the show to keep up with all the stories. Links to the sites featured in this week's episode's research can be found in the show notes. This episode was brought to you by Shirts by Sarah. With school starting soon, why not send your children back with an original tee? Believe it or not, my best friend and I, Jeremiah, actually met because of a t-shirt I was wearing that we just reminded ourselves of this weekend when I visited him. Completely true story. Best friends, 20-something years, t-shirt. So get those kids some t-shirts. Go to shirtsbysarah.com. Indie Beginning is an ACN Books production. All research, writing, and editing was done by myself. I am your host, Benjamin Frankie.
And I'm Marie Kammerer Frankie.
Asking everyone to read more books,
be the best possible you,
and to simply enjoy this wonderful life. Thanks for listening.